My point is with this discussion is there's a lot of, you can get a lot of mills in the right places because if you're willing to use more than just a couple injection sites, I don't think it's an issue. I mean, I've been
You got to get creative.
Pretty high volume with DHB being 100 meg, Prop being 100 meg and stuff like that. I want to say, gosh, I don't even know, 14 a week, 16 maybe. I don't know. It's a lot of high. It's a lot of volume. And that's why if I can get NPP 200, which I can, and it's great, cool. I've even tried 150 Pro, and I actually tolerate it very well. I'm probably one of the few, because I was nervous going above 100 Pro, but it was smooth as silk. I guess when you mix those things with enough other compounds,
that's the other thing.
Kind of waters it down.
Yeah. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Blood, Sweat, and Gear with coaches Skip Hill, Andrew Berry, and myself, Scott McNally. All of our programming is brought to you by TrueNutrition.com. Use our code THINK over there to get additional savings on high-quality, third-party tested products. They've got basically all the supplements that you need, all the basic stuff. Not the super subs, that's something else, but they do have good prices, so you can save your money by shopping with them and spend more money on your growth. We're also brought to you by supplementsource.ca. If you're in Canada, you'll save a lot of extra money for your growth because they have great deals that change week to week on label-dated and short-dated products. Label change and short-dated products, that's what I was going for. And we are, of course, brought to you by Patreon. We do have some Patreon questions today. Guys, I thought this would be a fun one to start with. This is from Big Wavy Roy. He says, as you guys are all around the 40-year-old mark, Scott, you look great for 57, by the way. What does your approach? I don't know if you guys knew that. It's been an inside joke. I said I was 57 when Dave said, yeah, you look really good for your age. And I was like, whatever. And he's like, yeah, I would never guess you're 57.
And you know what? Just for the record, I'll be 55 on Sunday. That's a little too close for a joke. I'll have to know. Okay, well, 2 years different.
Everybody now has been like, Scott, you look great for 57. How has your approach changed for bodybuilding? What does it look like in terms of training, nutrition, and PEDs? I've just turned 40, feel and look the best that I ever have, but always wonder how long this can continue on low to moderate doses. Basically, when's the other shoe going to drop for him at 40 years old, Skip?
Yeah, that's a good question. He's talking specifically about gear, right?
Well, he said everything. He said training, nutrition, and PEDs. And he said for gear, he's using low to moderate doses.
Okay, and you know what? It's always smart. This is going to be one of those do as I say, not as I do things. Because I'm pretty honest. I'm pretty transparent with what I do. So I'm honest. I didn't change much with gear. Arguably, I probably take more. Okay, I take more. Full accountability.
Not arguably.
And it's not like significant, like a ton more, but I take more. And I'd say the main thing that has changed is the training. It had to, because you're going to run into those injuries. The caveat here is provided that you want to continue to train at the highest level that you can train. So I have to train a lot smarter. I just don't have a choice. So that's the biggest thing. Nutrition, that really hasn't changed much. I have more focus on health as far as, I spend good money on food for organic, high quality food, where earlier it isn't that I didn't care about my health, but I couldn't afford it. We were raising 4 kids. So, I didn't have that extra money to be able to, spend on things that I didn't necessarily need. And when you're 30, you're like, I'm going to live forever anyway. I'm invincible. It's not something that usually crosses your mind. So I would say that it's primarily just the training. I train smarter. The gear, I think it's a good idea as you age to pay more attention to your blood markers and your health. There's no question. And you should be paying attention to it when you're younger. But the vast majority of people aren't going to. So be smart about everything. Be smart about your gear. Be smart about your training. But the nutrition probably doesn't have to change much. I don't see that changing. Some people will say, and it's incorrect, that as you age, the metabolism slows. They've done studies now where that doesn't happen until you're well into your 60s. So I am far more sedentary now that I'm older. but I can carry more size and be leaner in the off season than I was before. That could be a growth hormone thing. Who knows? But the point is it's not as much as an age thing. It's how much you move and how sedentary or non-sedentary.
What you got, Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think. Like, nutrition hasn't changed. I still 6 meals, clean meals every day. Actually, I will say this: I probably eat way cleaner now than I did. Well, okay.
Yeah.
So for me, digestion is the most important thing now, and I know if I start eating things that aren't maybe from 10 different food groups or 10 food choices, I start to have issues, and I don't like to feel that way. I like to feel flat stomach, good digestion all the time. So that's probably my main focus. Whereas, okay, look, we all have been back in the days where we were force feeding and eating loads of food, and we would still find a way to train, however uncomfortable it was, being bloated, waterlogged, whatever you want to call it. And that I just never want to feel that way again. I want to feel good when I go to the gym. Training, I have to completely agree with Skip that you have to become smarter with your training. You have to do you a lot of times you just have to say I can't do those exercises anymore. Whether it's like a squat, for instance. I mean, from my 18s or not, from like 14 to probably the age 29, I did squats 99 out of 100 leg workouts. Like, squats were the main exercise almost every time. A squat or a front squat, right? And then it starts to slow down a little bit as, my back's hurt for a little while, so I'm going to do hack squats or I'm going to do leg press or whatever. And now it's to a point where squats are just not something I can really ever do again. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to use 2 plates on a back barbell squat. It just won't feel the same. I will feel like a not so good bodybuilder if I do that. I was going to say a different word.
Yeah, you were.
So, you know what I'm saying, though? But I can still hang it up pretty hard on a hack squat. I can still go pretty good on a leg press. I do a lot more single leg exercises now, where I would avoid those back in the day thinking they were fluffy, kind of wussy exercises, whereas I've been able to get a lot out of single leg stuff, and I really enjoy it. In terms of PEDs, I'm not going to say I take more, but I would say when I do take them for periods of time, it's right around the doses I used to take years ago. I would say that my competency and knowledge of how to alleviate, blood work issues should they pop up, is much better now. And so when I get my labs done, it's a very routine, quick fix if there's something that's off. So I'm not worried about health in that respect. For me, the biggest issue is time. Like, we all know what it takes to be a good competition bodybuilder. And I think as you get more and more into coaching and you have hundreds of clients, it gets to be a time issue where I would never want a client to, because I hear this sometimes, where other people that I'm talking to at the gym, I'll be like, oh, how's it going with so-and-so? How's your training? Blah, blah, blah. They'll be like, well, he hasn't really been getting back to me, but he's in his prep, so I get it. And it's like, you're paying for a service, dude. Like, the service should be 100% year round. You know what I mean? Like, you go to the grocery store, you expect the same groceries, to be there every time. You expect the service people to treat you the same way every time, regardless of, they're out of eggs this week. Well, they should still be treating you the same,
Right.
So I never wanted to be a coach where someone could say something nasty about me, of being negligent or kind of sleeping at the wheel. So if it weren't for that, I would probably still be competing,
I could see the training thing being a big part that's changed. I've got that unique situation because I had gotten sick a few years ago and it stopped my ability to do what I was doing. But I can say that, like, in my 40s, I was my strongest ever. And there were things, I'll tell you what I learned how to get, so I remember, like, late 20s, early 30s, and anytime I trained before that, my technique wasn't nearly as good. And so I'd end up with, like, elbow pains and knee pains, and I wasn't even at my strongest. Then in my 40s, because I'm not doing stupid things like locking out and then breathing for 5 seconds and then doing one more rep and then locking out and breathing for 5 seconds, I'm, kind of keeping the weight under constant tension. There was no risks. Like, even though I was strong and I was lifting heavy, I wasn't taking risks anymore. And it doesn't have to be, like, training doesn't have to be risky in order to be strong. So I would say that learning that was key. But you know what? I don't know. I feel like for me, and maybe for you too, Andrew, The idea of, like you said, because I thought of the same thing you thought of, man. Like, you're like, I don't want to eat foods that make me feel. You're like, I'm good with eating clean now. I feel the same way, man. I don't think about eating a lot of junk food. I just will eat what used to be like hardcore to me is like just what I want to do, you know? So I feel like a lot of guys in their 40s are kind of in that place now where we're just like, you just want to eat clean. I'm like, did you want to cheat? You know, I'll ask a client, be like, you know, we've been working together for just like, you know, a few weeks now. We haven't had any kind of cheat meal yet. Is that something you were, I just like to stick with my food. I wouldn't mind going out for a steak with my wife, you know? And I'm like, oh, okay, we can do that, you know?
Same.
So like, I think a lot of people are more of that mindset. They're not like, oh man, I want to go get these new burgers or, you know, whatever else is on the market right now.
Yeah, more along the lines of like Skip with like doing the poke bowl. Like to me, that's a kind of a cheat meal. It's something different that I don't normally eat. And since I don't do the raw fish all day like I was this time last year, giving myself mercury poisoning, I do look forward to having like a poke bowl, which is still clean and like it's, you know, you can make it just as clean as a chicken and rice meal. You know, you have like Skip mentioned, he only really gets veggies in on the weekends when he does his poke bowls, and I'm kind of the same way. I'll get exposed to some vegetables I don't normally get or that I rarely or ever, if ever, get, you know, because I'm like him. Protein, simple carb, simple fat. I do a lot of fruits. I do like greens, drinks and stuff, but I'm not a big fan of eating veggies throughout the day for the same reason that he mentioned, just not feeling great.
Yeah. All right. Kind of opposite end of the spectrum question, because I feel like this is like, hey, how do I keep it healthy, keep it going? We had another question. How do you logistically administer 3 grams of gear per week?
Gotcha. Because so even if you were taking 3 grams of testosterone, that's 10 cc's of oil, and we all know that. Yeah, but even though we know that like EQs or you know NPP is usually 100 milligrams per, right? Or you know even Deca is more like a 250 typically, though we have seen suspensions that are a little different. So I think you got to really get good about rotating your spots and have a schedule. And I know Skip will say, because he does bilateral injections every time, because he doesn't want to have one side be sore, which I totally understand. And I do that during contest preps or, you know, that kind of situation. But I think you get used to like 3 cc's in the delt, 3 cc's in the other delt, 3 cc's in the glute, 3 cc's in the other glute. You know what I'm saying? Like you rotate those sites, you get the lats, and then you probably do some smaller injections, like 1 cc in the tricep heads, 1 cc each in like your rear delts. So you kind of got to get smart about how you're spreading it out, really, and to have
1
a schedule.
cc in your rear delt? Amateur.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What's the most you put in your rear delt?
There, no problem. Oh, 2.
What's the most you?
No problem.
Oh, I've done.
Yeah, but
I've done 3.
my wife is very good after. Oh, have you? Okay, cool.
You know what? I missed that.
I've done 3.
You've done 3? Whew, that's a lot.
That's impressive. Yeah, that's impressive. My wife has gotten very good at rear delt and rear side delt shots over the years.
Now, I will say that I looked like I had a 4th delt head.
You were 4-dimensional after that.
For 3 or 4 days, but Joe writes 3 ml every other day, super easy to do. Well, in theory, it's super easy to do, but what if you're a little sore from that previous injection by the time you get around to that next injection spot? It's
8 weeks deep, you know, 10 weeks deep. And now you're adding
it's also the injection spots too. You know, some people aren't comfortable with quads, which I find not funny, but I can't relate because I have so much scar tissue in my quads because they were my favorite spot for it. They're right in front of your face.
I feel like the tissue, though, it's not as pliable, man.
Yeah, but when you've had a bad quad injection, it supersedes bad in any other body part.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I don't think.
Okay,
I don't think you've had a bad one, Skip. Like, I mean, I'm
probably
talking
haven't,
like
but
can't walk.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. It's hard to relate, you know, because I don't know what I've had them where they've been bad. But the point is it's to the point now where I can't go on the upper outer part of my quad anymore because, well, at some point years ago, I had to go to a 1.5. And I mean, no one uses a 1.5 inch pin anymore. That's a 20-year-old thing.
Right.
So, but it wouldn't 1 inch wouldn't plunge because of the scar tissue. Like it just wouldn't plunge anywhere. So I had to go to 1.5 to get below the scar tissue. And then I told you this, I think it's a funny story real quick. I went to when I tore my glute, they did the wrong leg or the wrong hip And then they had to do the other side. When they compared the two, they go, well, this is weird. It looks like you have, literally told my doctor, it looks like he's got 2 tumors on each quad. And I'm like, oh, geez. Did it occur to you that would be pretty odd coincidence to have tumors in the same spot on both legs when that's an injection site? I mean, come on. And they're like, oh, yeah, I guess I would explain it. They didn't say it exactly like that, but that's what I heard.
Let me back up. Did you say they did your wrong leg?
Yeah, they did the wrong leg, and they tried to blame it on me, saying you moved. Did you have to do it again? And I'm like, whoa. I fucking hate MRIs. I hate them with a passion. So I
for an
didn't
MRI.
move.
Okay.
Yeah,
I thought we were talking about a surgery. I was like, dude,
yeah.
How are you not like uber rich
no.
now? If they did like a surgical procedure on you.
Why, hello. I wanted to do something different with my True Nutrition advertisement for today. And here's the thing, I just got our order in. Victoria and I, we pay for all the protein that we get. They don't send us anything for free. And that's because I've believed in True Nutrition for 15 years now. I've been using them ever since I contest prep. They have some of the cleanest, best quality protein. A lot of times I use the Team Skip, but here's the deal. I'm going back to the Pure Whey Isolate. The Pure Whey Isolate, it just processes so fast. This is my favorite flavor, chocolate peanut butter cup. But if you want to try just like 1 pound at a time, you can do that. Just sample it. I've never had the cookie butter, so I'm going to try the cookie butter this week. We got a big old bag of pea protein isolate. For the wife, this is what she likes to use. And here's the thing, they're just about wholesale prices at True Nutrition. Plus, they don't add the flavor in when they weigh it. So you get like legit 1 pound of protein, and then from there they add the flavor after that. So every 1 pound, I think it's like 1.2. I'm not sure, don't quote me on that. But hey, here's the thing, True Nutrition is a great quality protein. They believe in us. They advertise with us because I literally asked them to. And if you use our code THINK, you'll get some additional savings. Plus, of course, that's like voting for our podcast. So thank you guys. I hope you enjoyed my my impromptu ad. Goodbye.
No, but they tried to blame it on me for moving, and they finally had to cave and admit that the tech did the wrong side. Now I was pissed because I had to go back into that machine again and do it again. I was livid.
Yeah.
Not cool with MRIs. But anyway, my point is the injection site. So here's an example. You got your outer quad, your lateral, high, I call it high lateral. You have kind of a medium, not necessarily low, but a medium lateral. You have your rectus femoris, which a lot of people for some reason stay away from. I think they're great. You have ventral glute, which I stay away from because I've had lower back issues. I don't want my hips tight. That actually helped to create one of the times when I herniated my L4 or L5 out of the 9 times that I did it back then. So I will not go ventral glute. Then you have your glute. Then you have your lats. Then you have, if you have someone to be able to give them to you, when people say I give myself rear delt shots, I'm like, I don't even know how you do that because I can't do that. And I'm not that big. Really?
Yeah,
I had that big.
Yeah, I would have to do it in a doorway, and I'd press this arm like this, and then I could like go, and then I'd hold it like this.
Yeah.
So if this is
I can get it in, but I can't plunge it. Like,
yeah, if this was
what
the
do you do?
pin,
Lean against the wall to
if this is
plunge
the
it?
pin here, I could get it in. Like I'm doing it right now.
Okay.
Me and Scott have longer arms.
Maybe that's
longer
it.
arms than you.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. T-Rex over here.
What the hell are you talking about? Anyway, so you got your rear delt. Then you have, you have literally 3 points on your side delt. You have the front of your side delt, the middle of your side delt, and the back of your side delt. And then you got bis and tris. I can't go bis and tris anymore because they just won't hold. For some reason, they seep. They will end up every single time between the muscle and the skin. And I used to do them for years and never had a problem, but I can't even put 1 mil in them. It will not hold.
So if
what else is there?
If I do glute shots now, Skip, I tend to get a bad shot more often now where it seeps into my bloodstream. Where I'll get like that funky taste, you get like you know what I'm talking about, where you're like you can taste the solvents right after you take the shot. I'm talking even like legit pharma TRT that I've gotten from my doctor, and I'm like, oh man. And then 2 hours later, dude, never fails, I get the worst stomach pain. Now, the first time it happened to me, I didn't correlate it. I just felt like every once in a while I'd get this terrible stomach pain. Well, I'm doing a cycle. I'm in a contest prep. And it would be like 2 hours later or 4 hours later. So I didn't, because I'm doing shots all the time, I'm not like, oh, it's only on my shot day that it ever happens, 4 hours after my. So I finally figured it out. But the last time it happened was like leading into the show. And it was like went Tuesday before the show. And I'm taking my last shot. I get the taste. And then I go out, blah, 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 train. And then I eat food. And dude, it crippled me. So now I'm afraid to do glutes, even with TRT, for that reason. It's only glutes that I get that in. Isn't that weird?
Let me ask you about this injection site, because I've been talking to my DPT who does my soft tissue work, dry needling, coupled with motion, things like that. And I told him, I said, can I inject my teres major? He's like, whoa, I don't know if I do that. You got this in there, you got that in there. I'm like, I know, but I saw a guy in the gym who clearly had used synthol.
In his
and
teres?
He wasn't a big, yeah, it was obvious. Like he sat there on the long, he was like looking at his phone, but he was sitting there on a long pulley row, not doing anything. And it was like tennis balls. Yeah. And I thought, man, that would be pretty impressive to be able, because, and I'm not talking about putting synthol there, but I'm like, you know what? I have a pretty narrow back. If I happen to put a little bit of my regular gear shots into my teres major, it might actually help a little bit. But I haven't gotten the balls up to do it yet.
I can only imagine the look on numerous medical professionals' faces throughout the years that Skip has talked to. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. You're going to do what?
Yeah.
So, but with the lat and teres injections, you got to be really careful, because with prolonged use, I can send you some pictures of some pros that I know were doing that almost exclusively, and it really messed the look of their back up. Like really. Yeah, some current competing ones right now that I'll show you guys later.
I haven't had any problems with lats, and I think they're relatively easy to do. The problem is that muscle is so thin that it just doesn't seem to hold well. I'll have the injection and I'll feel it in that area, and it's like after a couple days, it's almost like it slides down. Like the oil is literally like with gravity moving down or something. I don't know.
Maybe when you put the needle in, it went out the other side and you literally just squirted it out through the air.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm actually injecting my kidney or my liver on the left side. I don't know. But that one made my DPT nervous too, because he goes, they cover a lot of lats cover a lot of surface area, but they're pretty thin. You got to be careful. And I showed him how I did it. He went, oh yeah, that would work from that angle. Yeah. I think he was thinking coming straight in, and it's too hard to explain. But obviously, when you're giving yourself a shot and you're reaching around to the side, you're catching a good part of the meat. You're almost kind of coming in from the side versus coming in from the back. My point is with this discussion is there's a lot of, you can get a lot of mills in the right places, because if you're willing to use more than just a couple injection sites, I don't think it's an issue. I mean, I've been
got to get creative.
Pretty high volume with DHB being 100 mig, Prop being 100 mig and stuff like that. I want to say, gosh, I don't even know, 14 a week, 16 maybe. I don't know. It's a lot of high. It's a lot of volume. And that's why if I can get NPP 200, which I can, and it's great, cool. I've even tried 150 Prop, and I actually tolerate it very well. I'm probably one of the few, because I was nervous going above 100 Prop, but it was smooth as silk. I guess when you mix those things with enough other compounds,
that's the other thing.
Kind of waters it down.
Yeah. Because I'd used like the Test 400 that would have traditionally, back in the day, that was kind of unheard of. And if you got it, you knew that it was going to be crippling, right? But if you mix that with whatever it was, EQ, for instance, and maybe you didn't do a lot. Like maybe it was 1 cc of Test 250, like your Test E, and 1 cc of EQ, and then you add in a half cc of the Test 400. Now you're at 450 tests per shot. You're boosting it up there pretty easily, and the solvents kind of get diluted in those other compounds.
Yeah.
And that brings me to just real quick, the tren acetate. I can't remember the last time I got a tren, knock on wood, but the last time I had a tren cough, it's probably been 4 or 5 years. I just don't get it anymore. I don't know if they have changed, whether it's a carrier that's different or if it's just the ratio of the gear that I have in the syringe is not as high or concentrated as it was before. And you guys know, you've done gear, we've all done gear long enough to know that you can get that cough from many other compounds. It doesn't have to be.
That's what I'm talking about. When I'd get that taste, it was like the beginning of the cough, man.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then you try not to cough. I'm sure we all do it. You're like, I'm not going to take a deep breath because once I do, it's going to be violent.
It
so you're
starts.
doing those shallow, short breaths.
And then you got to go into the
then
bathroom because
finally-
you're like, am I going to throw up? I might throw up if I do this. Yeah.
Yeah. And then finally you got to take that big deep breath and it's just like,
Yeah.
Are you on the gear topic? Are you guys seeing? Have you heard that Primo Bowling's gone?
Huh? It's gone?
I haven't heard.
So the Chinese, I guess, they're something to do with the pharmacies or pharmaceutical companies that make it. China said, nope, you're not making it anymore. And so there's no more raws going anywhere. Yeah. Like if you talk to your people that provide that stuff.
I'll ask Dave. He knows some guys over there in China.
Yeah.
Let's see what he says.
Supposedly, like no more, and it could. Well, even I'm seeing the prices of it go up from like $100 a bottle to $180 a bottle, like just like that.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah.
It was expensive enough to begin with.
Great time for that, right? Like great time to all of a sudden jack that price up. All of a sudden when everybody's only running Primo,
I know.
You know what? I think this has something to do with. I'm pretty sure it has to do with. This has to be political.
It's a tariff. They're putting a tariff on Primo now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, we had a couple in the stream. I didn't want to forget about you guys. Zionic said, when logging food intake, and on the rare occasion I eat a few ounces of chicken around 3 a.m., for instance, do you log for the previous day or for the day coming up starting a few hours later? Thanks, fellas.
Just pick one as long as it's consistent and isn't going to matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, I don't think any of us log our food, honestly.
We don't.
Like we have our meal plans. Like
my clients shouldn't be logging their food either. They don't need to do that. They just follow the diet,
Well, that's the thing. And how annoying is it when someone like sends you back like a MyFitnessPal or something readout, and they're like, the calories don't match up with like what you're telling me. That it's like,
there's an extra 110 grams of protein in my diet.
Yeah,
that's
like,
the protein from your oats, bro. And
your veggies,
your rice,
your oats, your fruit, the 1 gram in your strawberries,
right.
So just follow your plan. And like Skip said, pick one method of accounting for it and stick with it.
Yeah,
it's a lot like having a scale that is 2 pounds off. The only time it matters is the first time you step on it, because from there on, it's going to be accurate with your progressions. It doesn't matter. Yep. Obviously, if you have to weigh in, that's one thing, but never count on your scale at home for your weigh-in.
Right.
Weight at a show anyway. And you know what? Let me just add this in here. I know it's relatively insignificant to most, but some will find value in this. A good promoter will always have their scales heavy. That makes sure or helps to make sure.
Do you mean? Oh yeah, heavy.
Do I have it backwards?
I don't know, but I know what you mean. So you come out basically light, right?
So that the competitors get into the classes that they're supposed to get into, and it's consistent across the board. So even if it's off 1.5 pounds, it's consistent for everybody, because the last thing you want as a promoter is everyone to be mad because they missed their cutoff for the weight class by 1.5 pounds, and you've got all these people in different classes. So it's been like that for years. So don't worry too much. If you have a digital scale at home and you weigh, you're not going to be off by 2 pounds getting on a doctor scale that has the weights on it. What are those called? I don't know. I call them doctor scales because there's no truer weight. I mean, it's got a balance on it and everything else. Yeah. So it doesn't usually happen.
I don't think. Have you guys ever had someone not make weight?
I didn't make weight for my first show, but then they.
Oh really?
In 2010, I missed it twice. Same promoter, and I wanted to blame the promoter because I'm like, there is no way that I was off once, let alone twice in the same year. This is not, and it was like 3/4 of a pound or 1.25 pounds. I don't know. It was something like that, where it was this shouldn't even be happening. Like what the hell's going on? Anyway, it was.
What'd you do? Did you like put on your sweats and start running and try to get weight off?
Well, I did, but I didn't have the time. Because I just didn't even think it would be an issue, so I ended up being a heavyweight, both shows, and I was mad. I was probably more mad at myself. The point is that's an odd situation to do that, not once but twice to yourself. It was just weird, and it's the only time it's ever happened. I don't know. I think they had it out for me. I think they saw me coming through the door.
They got the other scale out.
We're gonna screw. Yeah, give Skip this scale.
They turn the knob a little bit.
No. Literally, every other athlete is using scale A, and then all of a sudden they see Skip next in line. Like, oh, hold on, we got to change the scale, and they pulled that one out.
Yep.
And they put this rinkety old one up there,
and then put a rock in your pocket just in case you still.
And then they go back to the other scale as soon as Skip's done.
I do remember competing against this guy who was just such a knob in the gym, and he was like talking all sorts of garbage about me, and we're doing the same show. He was a heavyweight, I was a light heavy, and he was like talking all sorts of garbage, telling everybody how he's gonna mop the floor with me and all this stuff, and he's like just out of his mind, right? And we get to the show, and they had us line up in the auditorium, and they had weigh-ins on the stage, and he was like, and it was the morning of, and he was like, man, they're gonna have us peel down right up there on the stage and wait, because he came in and he was like lost child, you know. He stood next to me in line. He's like, they're gonna, and I was like, yeah, well, we're gonna be competing up there too pretty soon, you know. And he said, Aaron told me not to go to the bathroom this morning. I had to poop. He told me to hold it so that I'd stay in heavy. I was like, oh, so you didn't have to compete against me, huh?
That's pretty
That's
cool.
when you start tickling him. Oop, little poop came out. Now I'm a light heavyweight. Oh crap.
Which is also, that's the craziest thing I've heard about someone trying to stay in a heavier weight class. Like, oh, don't go to the bathroom. Like, no matter what, don't go to the bathroom. You know, there's other things you could do. Like, okay, like let's front load your water a little bit more, or you know, we'll give you one meal right before you go in, so you gain.
I think
like
he was maybe
right
close, and then he was like, you know what, you're close. Let's just hold it. That kind of thing.
Well, that's what Carlos did at Nationals when he won the overall.
Did
Carlos
he?
Thomas Jr. So he was a heavyweight, and he wanted to be a super heavyweight, and because he felt his chances were better there, so they made sure that he was just a couple pounds over where, you know, they could have started the depletion and gotten him down a little bit lower to actually make what I would think would have been a true weight class, you know, sub 225.
Yeah,
and because Justin Shire was in the heavyweights, and Justin Shire was really. Yeah, he looks, his taper, everything was just amazing. So I think he probably wanted to avoid him. He thought, well, my chances against Nate Spear and my chances against, you know, the other supers a little bit better, and I'm going to go that way.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. Andrew from Patreon has one for us. And I know, Andrew, we've covered this before, but we'll cover it again. Quick one. Insulin, pre, intra, post, dosed with meals throughout the day, independent of training. I guess that means like insulin. Should you use it pre, or should you use it intra, or should you use it post? Should you use it dosed with meals throughout the day, independent of training, or a combination? I know you guys beat this one to death, but I can't remember where the specific question was answered. Use case would be specifically for a lagging body part.
Well, so if he wanted to go back to, if he just goes on to our Think Big, on your Think Big YouTube page and types in carbs under the search.
We call it ours.
Those, what's that?
I said, well, ours. You said mine, and I had ours.
Well, yeah, you know what I mean. So go to that page, and under the search function, type in the word carbs, because I do this all the time to send this episode to clients about how to specifically use insulin in the peri-workout window. That episode, we go over it. And then there's another one. If you literally just type in insulin and carbs, you'll get the second episode that Scott and I did. Or Skip was there too, I think, for that one. So we do have two good episodes that are, 45 and 30-minute segments long to go over this stuff in detail. But, it all depends on the situation, right? Because let's say I've got someone who does not like having fluid volume in their stomach during training, okay? So to me, I'm not going to push intra-workout carbs and intra-workout insulin on them, because it's going to lead to them having a poor workout, right? So I might do something a little different where we're going to use insulin in like a pre-workout, or maybe let's say they're training after two meals. I might do a carb-heavy meal and load with insulin at meal 1, and then do a very moderate meal 2, and then have them do their training without any intra-workout carbs, maybe just some essential amino acids and whatnot. Another way you could do it is you could load up your insulin post-workout and have that be like a much larger meal. So there's so many different ways to do it. And I guess my advice to someone doing this would be to start with one method after watching these videos that we talk about, and utilize it for like a 4 to 6 week period and track your results, track your response in the gym, track how you're looking, track your blood sugar, track your hunger response, like all these different variables. And then you'll get a sense of like how insulin will work well for you. But my preferred is insulin in the intra workout window, and then GH afterwards. I like GH at other times too, but that's my preferred: insulin pre-workout, or intra-workout. I'm sorry, intra-workout carbs, and GH immediately after.
I'll go with that.
What do you think, Skip?
That's pretty much what I do. Yeah, that's pretty much what I do. I have taken the GH maybe half hour, 45 minutes prior to getting to the gym, and then do my insulin. Train. I don't know that I notice a difference between the two, but I will tell you it's much easier for me to remember my GH post-workout because I've got a million things on my brain when I'm getting around to go to the gym, and sometimes I forget it and it makes me mad, and I never forget my GH post-workout, so it is what it is. I do want to bring up with GH just real quick because we were talking about that at bedtime a couple shows ago and how it impacts sleep. And I just went to and did that. I went to 3, especially now because I'm at 12 IU. So I was doing 4 IU 3 times a day. One of them was at bedtime. And it just was screwing my sleep.
Again.
So I went back to 2 doses of 6 IU, where the last dose is post-workout. So that's about 11:30 at night. And I don't go to bed until about 4-ish, sometimes later, but I'm really shooting for 4. And my REM and deep sleep literally has doubled.
No kidding.
So that is one. Not everybody does that. I understand that not every person is going to have that reaction, but that's why I have said that I'm not a fan of it for some people around bedtime, because it can have a negative impact on your quality of sleep. Not everybody, but it did with me, and I had to change it. Change it back.
Me too.
And that gets back to literally what I was just saying about experimenting with insulin is trying something out and seeing the pluses and negatives, and then determining, is this the right path for me? Skip tried the GH at night. It was hurting his sleep. So now he's found a better course of action protocol for himself, and he's utilizing it to get better results and better sleep.
Right. At the end of the day, we're all doing this. It's essentially a science project with ourselves. We're giving you guys advice and opinions and information, but you still have to go apply it and basically go through the trial and error and assess and evaluate how you respond to it, and maybe still tweak it from there. It's a giant bro science experiment, and that's why I don't think bro science. I don't think it should be the negative connotation that it is. It still is a science experiment.
Yeah, I'm with you on that 100%.
I think the word bro science kind of got stolen and attached to like negative connotations, because I don't want to pick on younger people, but because a lot of the younger guys just started like throwing SARMs in and throwing a lot of these things that maybe were not, I guess, the effective tried and true that generations before them. And obviously I'm all for experimenting and trying new things, but I feel like the bro science of it, for my definition, is like, especially growing up in the early 2000s on the forums, like that's what we were doing was bro science. Was we try protocols out, we'd share information with others would try that stuff out, and if it worked, there was kind of a general consensus that was a pretty good idea. And it wasn't like we didn't have research papers that told us to try this stuff. We maybe had an inkling of a research paper that gave us like a path to go on, and then we like really dove in and used our mindset, used our minds, used our bodybuilding knowledge and our individual protocols, and developed them further and passed that knowledge down to each other. And then kind of a general consensus of utilizing something like insulin in bodybuilding, or utilizing growth hormone, like all these different things we do. It started out as bro science in a sense.
Yeah, I'm with that. I like that. What do you guys think of adding weed to your prep for metabolism and sleep?
Andrew?
He's doing the thumbs up
2
for
thumbs
our audio
up.
listeners. Yes. Yeah.
Three thumbs up. No, I mean, well, here's the thing. Go ahead if you want to say something.
Me? I was just listening.
All I was thinking was, I don't want to add anything like that if it's not something that you like enjoy doing and you're kind of already doing. It's kind of like the nicotine thing. I don't want to encourage people to use something, and obviously nicotine will probably be more of an addictive substance than marijuana would. But I want to be careful to not tell someone or advocate for something that that they could potentially, I don't want to say rely on, but come to like with my recommendation versus something they come to like and enjoy that they're doing on their own because they want to do it themselves. Do I think it has a negative negative impact? I don't think that it does. I'm sure that maybe if you get high before you train, that's not effective. I don't know. I've never done it. But I don't think there are many negative ramifications, but I just want to be very careful to not recommend something like that, whether it be nicotine or pain medication or anything like that. Back in the late 80s, it was a Nubane. Everybody was addicted to Nubane in bodybuilding because they could train so much harder. Then, oh crap, this stuff is really addictive. And they had issues with that. So I don't know. That's kind of where my brain was going.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to start somebody on it. You know what I mean? If you're like, okay, so you're going to work with me, we're going to need to find a source for weed. You know what I mean? I would never go that route.
Right. Wait. Time out. We're talking about like probably the most non-illegal illegal drug technically in marijuana, but we're like also being like, oh, but make sure you get your trend from here and get your Anavar from here. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to get you guys down the wrong path, but
no, I do see him as very different.
I would never,
though,
I would never write into someone's protocol if they didn't express an interest in already using it.
Right.
But for instance, if let's say someone's having a really hard time winding down in the evening because they have to train, say, late at night, or their job keeps them going right up until they have to get home and they have to get to bed. I do think it could be a good tool utilized properly to help them wind down, to just get into that more relaxed state and then go and have good sleep. I'll even, because I do know a lot of people also that do like using marijuana before their lifts, before their workouts.
It's more popular than ever now, man, isn't it?
It's more,
really?
Yeah, because I think people are, because people aren't getting like completely stoned before they go to the gym. They're doing like 1 or 2 hits from a vape pen, and they're just kind of getting in a more focused mindset, especially if they're just throwing their music on. They don't have to work out with a training partner. They're just kind of in their zone. And it allows them to focus and lock into what they're doing a lot better. And I'll say, I loved doing a couple hits or more of a vape pen before doing cardio. Like for me, if I had 45 or an hour cardio I had to do that day, a couple hits of the pen, I didn't want to get off. Like my hour would go by and I'd be like, oh, damn, like I got to start my day now. Like this was like my hour while I'm burning calories, and people will be like, oh, you weren't working as hard. It's like, well, the numbers say I was I'm actually working harder in terms of calorie burn because I was in such a good state. So I wouldn't, like you guys are saying, I wouldn't be like, hey, this is a protocol you need to do.
Right.
Like we're talking like, hey, I want you to add clen or I want you to add in testosterone. But I do think there's a lot of utilizations for bodybuilding.
Yeah, especially for someone that's already like, that's their thing, I could see that.
Tanya here writes, it takes her 97 hits to be stoned. A few fits before each exercise puts me right in the zone. Wow.
Hey, when I think about it, my daughter, 3 of my 4 kids, remember, 4 kids were raised in Colorado during the time as teenagers when it was becoming legal. They smoke. My daughter, who competed last year, she smokes before she goes to the gym. Probably the same thing. Maybe she just does a hit, but every night before she goes to bed, she goes out on the deck. Like, oh, I'll be out on the deck for a couple minutes. Like, you fucking stoner, you loser.
Okay, so
I'm kidding.
Let's think back to like when I was growing up. Like at least my parents are like, and all my friends' parents, they'd go out and they'd sit at night and have a couple glasses of wine, or they would have a scotch, or it's their way to wind down. And I would argue that marijuana use is healthier because you're not adding those negative calories, you're not dehydrating yourself. I would argue it's a better vice, I guess, over say alcohol even.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that at all. It's just the old head mentality. My generation looks at smoking pot like if I smell it, I'm standing online at a bank. I'm just being honest. And it's 1:00 in the afternoon. I will treat that. My brain initially treats my initial response the same way as if I smelled alcohol. I'm like, what the fuck are you? It's 1:00 in the afternoon. That's my initial response. And then I defer after I process it to, I don't give a fuck what anybody does because that's my mentality. But because I was raised in that time, just say no with Nancy Reagan and exactly. This is your brain. This is your brain on drugs. I mean, wow, that shit's ingrained in my head. And I'm 55 years old. I remember that. So it's just
Yeah.
different. I'm happy. I'm progressive from a social standpoint. You guys know that. So
No.
I'm good with that. But my initial reaction sometimes is that instinctive response of what I was originally programmed with when I was young.
Now, being that I'm in recovery, I can't advocate for my own use. But at this point, I just thought to myself, Andrew, imagine if we could get Skip high before one of the podcasts, what that episode would be like.
You would do it once and you'd never want me to do it again. Trust me. You'd be like,
We just feel like,
can't do
Andrew,
that.
we're just going to let him roll, dude. This is Skip's show, whatever he wants today.
I'm not gonna lie. There's been plenty of shows where I've definitely done it, like not right before, but because I do it during the day sometimes. If it's like a non-training day,
Yeah.
I'll go outside the first thing in the morning. I'll take a couple hits and just get me in the work zone. It helps me like focus sometimes. But this one you'll find funny, Scott. We were at the shooting range, like I don't know, maybe a year ago,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden, like we're in line. You know how you got to get in line and you sign in and show them
Yeah.
your card. And all of a sudden, like the whole place smells like weed. And we're all kind of like looking around, like, and the guys behind the counter are kind of like really looking each of us in the eye, like,
Yeah.
And they figured out who it was pretty quickly. Like the dude was like,
Dude, where I shoot at, it's kind of like we're right by the freeway. You could take that freeway right to Detroit. So there's a lot of people who come out from Detroit to shoot. In the parking lot will smell like weed sometimes. And
that's ridiculous. That's not smart.
More frequent than not, it does. Let's put it that way. And they've had to put signs up on the wall with a big leaf with the circle with the line through it. Like you cannot be using alcohol or drugs while you're here. Like these two things don't mix,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which seems like a no-brainer, right? Don't use anything that could alter your state of consciousness in any way before you come in. You know?
All right. How about this one? Question for the next episode. I'm starting my third cycle soon. It's going to be Test 600, Deca 200. I want to try an oral. What should I add?
Anadrol. Bring out the A-bombs. Right there. If I had
It's so funny.
I need a button with a bomb.
Skip and I have like completely taken the other side of each other's.
Are you on Anavar? Anavar? Yeah.
Over the last like 2 years, because I would have to a T every time asked said, "Oh, Anadrol, no doubt." No, and I've been like, "Oh, Anavar's for wusses,"
Yeah.
And now I'm like, well, Anavar's pretty freaking good. Like, you look pretty good on it. You get a nice little strength pump. Like, and it just depends, I guess, on what your overall goal is. But I don't think you'd go wrong by using either one of them.
Yeah, I'd be with that. I'm bummed that nobody likes Dbol anymore. Poor Dbol doesn't get any love by anybody. Everybody is all about the Anavar. Everybody's all about the Primo today. Maybe a little bit of Mast. Anadrol is kind of like, it gets a pass. I think because it doesn't convert to estrogen or something, people are okay with it.
Well,
but Dbol, nobody loves Dbol anymore. Just Dbol in the corner by itself.
The thing with Anadrol is it doesn't convert to estrogen, right? But it slows down, because sometimes people will be like, my estrogen went up when I was using Anadrol. Like, you can't tell me it doesn't convert to estrogen. And it doesn't convert to estrogen, but it does slow down estrogen recycling via the liver. So
it basically shuts your liver down from
Exactly. Yeah. That's why estrogen, your liver is failing.
Yeah.
All right. What else do we have here? We got some other fun stuff. All right. That was our question about the 40s. Okay. Now, I don't know the context of this question. By the way, my answer was Dbol, by the way. Context of yeah.
Give us, because you do pump up Dbol. Give us your pitch. Like,
listen, if this podcast could be sponsored by Dbol, like the original, I don't know if it was Seba or something like that, I would totally write them a traditional letter in the mail. I'd send it to them. Hi, my name's Scott McNally. I'm part of a podcast called Think Big Bodybuilding Media. I'm a very big fan of your product, and I talk about it all the time. Is there an opportunity for sponsorship? Something like, even free product. I don't know. Here's my thought, man. Number one, I feel like Dbol is my like feel good compound. I always feel good, and I've heard so many people say like, man, I just feel good on Dbol. I do have to admit, my first cycle ever was Dbol, and so when I feel the Dbol kicking in, which is fast, I'm kind of, that it reminds me of that first cycle. So there is that, but I like the strength from it. I like the water retention from it. I just don't like the way it kills my appetite after about 10 days now. So as all orals do, I just think, man, that it's complete. I think that people are uninterested in it because it is a nasty compound to control. You're creating this like terrible methyl estrogen, super radically strong, right? And I do think there's benefit for muscle growth as a result of that too, but you got to be moderate with it. Like I think that honestly, like if you want a low dose of something, 25 milligrams of Dbol over the course of 4 weeks is going to be a lot. That's great for his third cycle or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You just got to be prepared to handle the estrogen if that arises.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll revisit it someday.
I
feel like Dbol
the injectable, man, that's the place to be.
I feel like Dbol should come with like a Pez dispenser because you got to take so many of them. You know what I mean? Like you just
Yeah.
Well, they have 50s nowadays. So yeah.
Oh, do they?
Half of one. Just a half of one.
So back when
that was my first cycle too.
Was it?
Oh, really?
Yeah. What kind do you remember?
It was the little tiny. I mean, they were tiny little blue bottles, and this is back in like 85 or 86. I was
well
like
before my
15
time.
or 16. But the ramp, I was going to take it for 5 weeks. You had to take 1 a day the first week, 2 a day the second week, then 3, and then you had to pyramid back down 2 more. I got into the second week, and I was lying on the couch in my family room, and I went to get up, and I couldn't get up, and I had like a lower back pain or something, and I was convinced at 16 that I was sitting there, and I had to figure out a way to tell my parents that I was dying because my kidneys were failing because I had taken Dbol for a week and a half. And then like 2 hours later, it went away and I got up and I was fine. I was like, glad I didn't
say anything.
Steroids.
Yeah.
And you took your next dose.
I did. I kept taking it and never had any other problems. So clearly it wasn't a kidney problem, right? Dang.
Yeah.
I think the thing is that all of us users we're risk takers on some level. Like some people be like, I don't want to do that because it could hurt me. It's like, well, we got a body of evidence that shows it's pretty rare that one dose of anything related to what we do is going to hurt you,
Right.
But we are still risk takers, being able to experiment with insulin or all these other protocols and whatnot. It's kind of the name of the game, risk taking in some level.
Yeah. How about this one? And I don't know what the context was of the question. He says, how about 700 test E and 700 Mast E per week? That's just all he says. He posted it 5 days ago, 2 days after the show. Well, might have been posted
All
the
in
day
favor,
the show
say
came out.
aye.
I'll go with that. Yeah. Aye.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
That's that's a very, like, who would say no? Like, what coach in the world or what podcaster would be like, oh, that's a horrible cycle. That's a very comfortable, you're going to get results. I guarantee you're going to get results cycle, and you're probably going to have not many side effects. So yeah, that's a very good, yes.
and I consider Masteron a relatively, I think you guys do too, a relatively innocuous, which probably isn't the best word, but relative to other compounds,
Sure.
And especially at that dose, 700, if you're going to go 700 test, 700 EQ, that would probably perk me up a little bit more and go,
700 Dbol a week?
700 tests, yeah, exactly. 700,
How about 700
700 tests in Masteron. I'm like, what the hell?
700 trend?
Yeah, 700 trend, probably not a great idea.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah, you're going to feel that.
Had you guys ever run a test trend Dbol cycle in the off season?
No.
I don't think I have either.
It was strong, real strong.
I don't doubt.
Yeah.
And it used to be test Deca
what doses were you taking?
That was like a go-to.
What's that, Andrew?
What doses were you taking? I'm not writing this down or anything.
Oh, okay.
What was it?
I think it was test prop, and it was 100 every other day. Tren Ace 75 every other day, and Dbol. I can't remember the dosing on that, but
so the doses weren't crazy.
No. It was earlier on too. It was like I think my first trend run actually, and I was like, I have Dbol too, so I can kickstart my cycle because you got to kickstart with an oral back then.
Obviously. Obviously.
In my view, Dbol is worth it to take in the middle to the late off season if it gives you if it gives no hunger problems or low back pumps. Yeah, I like this guy. Becky's my kind of guy. Yeah. He says here in Italy, a lot of athletes use Dbol and some Anadrol in the rebound phase. LOL. Okay.
Take enough
Why the
steroids.
LOL?
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. All
Taking
right.
enough steroids, you don't want to end up a sylph. I'm working this word in here
Self?
because I tried to work it in. Yeah, I tried to
Oh.
work a word into the last episode. It didn't work. And then when you close, you
Closed
speak
hard.
so fast and so confidently. I'm like, I can't even get in here. Point is we want to take gear. We want to use steroids because we don't want to be sylph-like. Okay, a
Naturally.
sylph. You familiar with the term?
No.
No.
SYLPH. Okay, sylph
I
or
never would have thought of
like
the
a sylph.
pH.
Sylph-like. Sylph is essentially like slender and graceful by definition. So usually like something that you would like demure. You're not going to use the word demure for a guy. You're going to typically use that word, a timid woman, because it kind of does have I don't want to say like a sexual, but a gender overtone to it. Same with sylph-like. So yeah, you don't want to be, for lack of this is not going to be politically correct, but girly-like.
Beta.
Or small and slender. Exactly, a beta, snowflake, if you will.
Pretty
Which
sylphy.
snowflake doesn't work anymore because both sides call each other snowflakes. It used to not be that way.
Wait,
It's only
really?
one side. Now it's both sides. It's funny. It's like you guys
How?
can't even make up your mind. You can't even you can't even make up your mind who's a snowflake anymore. Anyway, so it's just it's sylph or sylph-like. So there you go. There's the word of the day.
I'm going to say selfie. That's the word I'm going to use. Selfie.
Yeah, you could do it. You could be a selfie. Take a selfie. Be a selfie.
All right. With regards to GH and the use of it for health benefits, not bodybuilding, what would be a good amount to use? 2 IU, less or more?
Okay,
I've
not
never taken it for
bodybuilding.
Like just like health benefits.
Okay, so like let's say your dad is like in his 60s, 70s, and you're like, I think this will improve your quality of life. Okay, so I'd say 2 units, like 5
Yeah,
days a week.
that's
Go
how I
with
do
that.
too. Yeah.
Go with that.
Yeah.
Get some good GH for him. Dad would be happy.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
Get him on TRT as well. He'd be set.
Yeah.
He'd be
10
stronger than you.
milligrams Cialis.
There you go. Don't ask him about last night.
Grandpa's on Cialis. Oh yeah.
Yes. How do we keep our joints feeling good after prep? I'm 2 months post prep and my joints feel bad.
That tells me that it's time to shut it down.
It's
Because
after prep.
I know it's time to shut it down. So they did their prep, they're in their post show, right? And they've probably been adding calories, trying to ride a nice rebound, using the PDs, food, and getting more rest, pulling cardio down. But I think they're at that point where the body is saying, "Hey, like we're now hitting that second wall," is what I like to call it. You hit that first wall at some point, like right before the show, where you're like, "Man, I don't know how I'm going to make it to stage." But then usually the work kind of goes down because you're into that final week where your cardio's going down, your sympathetic stress is going down on some level. You get done the show, calories are coming in, cardio's going down even more. Maybe different PEDs that aren't as stressful, and you kind of get a second wind, right? And so that second wind might be 4 weeks for some people, it might be 6, it might be 12 for some people. But 8 weeks is kind of 2 months is a typical time where guys are waking up and they're like, "Man, my joints are hurting. I kind of don't want to go to the gym today." Maybe their appetite, they've been loading calories and now their appetite's kind of hitting that wall. And we talked about this with Justin Harris when he was on a couple months ago. Those are all signs where it's like, hey, I think you got what you can get. Anything up past this, you're probably just going to get fat, more injured, more into a sympathetic state where it's going to be harder to come out from. So listen to your body. I'd cut the cycle, cut the rebound, and take some time off and get healthy.
Down with that. Anything, Skip? You want to add?
No, I would imagine that the increase in strength with the added calories coming off of that rebound, that probably plays a big part in those joints too. And is it actually joint pain, or is it just general inflammation in general? It's like pick your poison. Point is you hurt, so it's time to pull in.
Yeah. And has he seen his labs? I assume he has. Like, are you riding the primo out? Like, is your estrogen? Is it just that? Like, is your estrogen low? I assume. I think that you probably assume, Andrew. Like, of course he checked his labs, right?
No, I didn't assume that at all. No, I just know because I've done a lot of prep, done 20 preps, and I've probably coached people to I don't know, some crazy number, probably maybe not as many as Skip, but a lot. But
Yeah.
you don't get done a show and just like keep going for indefinitely. There's got to be a time. You get while the going's good because you now lowered that sympathetic stress. You've increased parasympathetic stimulation. You're adding calories. Your jugs have probably changed. You're sleeping better. All these different things are in the positive, but you kind of hit that second wall, and it's usually pretty quick. And it usually starts with sleep kind of starts to get disturbed again. Your joints start to hurt. You have some apathy towards going to the gym. Usually you've probably maxed out how much food you can get without getting fat at that point. So all these things kind of add up usually around the same time. And that to me is a clear sign like, oh, we're pulling back. And I'll do a deload where we're taking 2 weeks off from the gym, you know?
Yeah. Okay. Guys, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the podcast. If you are new to our show, then please hit the buttons.
Like, subscribe, comment.
Was that good, Skip? Did you like that? I don't know what that was.
It was unique. It was a lot different. Yeah.
I thought I'd just catch them off guard. You know what I mean? Seriously, guys, if you're new to our content, you watched this long, then at least hit the like button and leave us a comment because that stuff really does help to boost our show up. And if you are new to our content, then hit the subscribe button. We have several good shows that come out each week. Plus, be sure to hit the bell. I'm finding, guys, that most of the people who watch our channel, it's low. It's like 10% of our subscribers have actually hit the bell. Therefore, you leave it up to YouTube then. Will we show up in your algorithm? We might not. But if you hit the bell, you'll get a notification through YouTube to let you know that we're here. So we appreciate you guys tuning in. And I appreciate these two guys right here for hanging with us and sharing all their education. And you can reach out to them by going to bodyberry.com. You can go to teamskip.com. Reach out to them for coaching. Hit me up, mcnallydiets@gmail.com. And, for another episode here of Blood, Sweat, and Gear with Skip Hill, Andrew Berry, thank you to TrueNutrition.com. Use our code ThinkSupplementSource.ca. And thank you to Patreon. Guys, we will see you soon. Thanks, guys.